Hello, Mixtresses and Mixters. This is Mixtress Ray. You're watching Mixtress Video. So I've been planning to do this for a really long time. I can't remember if I've done it with any of my tarot and oracle decks yet, but the plan has been, I know I haven't done it for this one, but the plan has been to do sort of a review of my oldest decks and kind of, I probably have done it with Marigold, or I have enough fucking videos about Marigold at this point that I don't even need to. But this one, I did look it up yesterday just to make sure I haven't done this already. I'm gonna do sort of a review 5.5 years in to using the Wild Unknown Tarot. So some disclaimers at the beginning. My intentions with this video are not to influence you to buy anything, because I have a bit of a babble that I'm trying to schedule for later in the video, but we'll see if I can. But the general babble is that I don't think that my thoughts about any particular tarot or oracle deck, I mean, obviously they're not unbiased, but in particular, I think they are so far into the biased category that it's not even funny. Like, my point is, I think my opinions on things are very emotional. So I say it's not my intention to influence you to buy something because I'm about to say a lot of really good things about the Wild Unknown. And they are more about my experiences, my relationship with the Wild Unknown, than they are about the deck itself. That's my theory anyway, but I can't know for sure. So if you're thinking about buying this, and I mean, obviously, do what you want. Anyone is allowed to hang out here. But for me personally, I am easily influenced by others. So if I were the one watching this video right now thinking about buying this deck, I would at the very least mute me so that you're not, because you don't want my fucking voice in your head. If you choose to buy this, you don't want my voice in your head with the things that I'm about to say, because they may not be your experiences. And personally, I hate it when other people's voices are overriding my own. So, let's get into it though. First of all, second of all, third of all, wherever we are, I will say that I know that this tarot deck is overrated. I came to it, I got lucky. I came to it in 2019. It had already been out for several years at that point. I believe it came out in 2012. So I missed all of the hype. Like, people were over it by the time I discovered its existence. So I was able to create my own thoughts and opinions surrounding it. Whereas if I were hanging around on TarotTube back when this first came out and everybody lost their shit over it, I might feel differently about it, just because, you know, the hype machine sometimes can really burn you out on things, you know? It's kind of like Nirvana or the Beatles or David motherfucking Bowie. And I have feelings about all three of those things. I like one of them, but not the other two. You can guess in the comments which one of those I actually like. But you know, that can be a factor. So if you're coming to this video with, you know what, I don't want to hear another fucking word about Wild Unknown for the rest of my life, I get it. I get it. But I have been lucky to experience it fresh. Because, okay, so my experience, I might as well flip through it while I'm babbling. My experience with it was, I had just gotten a tarot deck given to me by a family friend, Tarot of the Cat People. I had just started really for the first time, even though I've been using tarot since the age of like 14 or 15, I did not start really learning the meanings of each card until 2019, or like 2017, 2018, actually. Like the narrative in my head has been 2019, but I recently discovered that that's not true. It actually goes back further than that. But at the beginning of 2019, I was looking for the tarot deck for me. And I found this one. And it was perfect for me because of its simplicity and all of the animals, because I love animals. It's just the little fold out. This is not what it looks like if you buy it now, but this is just the little fold out sheet from the first edition that I was incredibly lucky to find for really cheap on eBay. But that's not what this is about. So I put it in order, which I don't think I've put it in order in like maybe years. This one is interesting because it kind of, I give it a lot of credit, maybe too much credit. It sort of taught me tarot. I mean, at the same time, I was acquiring other decks. I already had Tarot of the Cat People. I quickly, like around the same time I bought this one, I bought a Centennial. But there are many things, like for example, this Three of Wands is the Three of Wands symbolism that I think of. This is what I base the Three of Wands symbolism on in my mind. It's a triangle, it's a portal. This is how I see it, and it's because of this deck. And it was perfect for me at the time because it's so simple. It was so clear to me what these cards meant by looking at them. But even that, I can't really separate it from RWS imagery in my mind because I was learning that at the same time. So I was applying what I knew about Rider-Waite-Smith tarot imagery to this from day one. But this also helped me. It gave me space. I like the line work. To me is really expressive. You can, to me, one of my talents that I think I have, which is very unverified personal gnosis, I think I can feel what it was like to create tarot decks, and oracle decks. I feel like I'm there in the room with the creation of the art. I'm gonna just pause for a minute on that to talk about this card in particular. This is also the definitive Seven of Wands for me. I love this. The symbolism here is incredible to me. The way that these other branches look just like each other, and they're pulling away from this one because they don't want to catch fire. But this is the one that's going to get the attention because this is the one that is on fire. This is the one that has a purpose. This is the one that's willing to stand out. I love that. This is the one that has an inner light. And the simplicity of this. And also, I think the wands are probably the strongest suit in this tarot deck as well. This is a very fire deck, in my opinion. This one, if you're going to charge it, which is not something that I normally do, this one needs to be outside, is how I experience it. I almost exclusively use this tarot deck outside. Its favorite color is yellow and red. It likes to be charged in the sunlight. It is completely fine with being blown out into the yard. So what was I saying before that I came away from? Oh, I can't remember. I was talking about something. Oh, my unverified personal gnosis of feeling like I can be there in the room. I think that this is an example of a tarot deck that took hold of people because of the way that it was created. I don't know, my thought, again, unverified personal gnosis, but my thought is that Kim Krans no longer makes decks from this space. But this deck in particular, I think, was created with, it was just, what is the term? Pure expression. Like this is why I think this deck took a hold of people, because she was using her own symbolism, her own symbolic language. She was creating this deck from a space of, like, it was bursting to get out of her. Which is why why I think it took hold of people. And why there were so many imitators. Like, for the longest time, people were just trying to recreate this deck. The court cards in particular, as you can see, are just, I mean, I don't know, something about this is just everything to me. This is the song Protection by Massive Attack. This is how I view the Queen of Wands. This is it. The coiled up snake protecting her eggs with the branch laying across her. Do not fuck with the Queen of Wands. I just feel like you can see what it was like to make these cards. It's a space of, there is anxiety there. There's definitely anxiety, but it's excitement, it's need. I actually don't like this card. This is there are several cards in this tarot deck that I do not like. So it's not like perfect or anything. But I think it's interesting that at the time that I chose to purchase this deck for myself, which, to be clear, the first one that I had was the 3rd edition, the one that you will get now. This one came a couple months later, and I gifted the other one. But when I chose to buy this for myself, I wasn't thinking that I was going to have a tarot or oracle deck collection. I thought, hey, I have this Tarot of the Cat People, and I like it, but this isn't the deck for me, so I want to find the deck for me. Previous to that, like a year or two before, I had bought Crystal Tarot as the deck for me, but it wasn't. It just didn't work for me. And so I was specifically looking for a tarot deck for me. And I thought I was going to find the one and stop there. And honestly, I could have. I mean, I'm happy to have the little collection that I have now. But this one was kind of the one for me in the sense that to this day, prefer to have no people in my tarot decks. It's just, I can handle it when there are people in it, depending on how those people are presented. But I prefer this. I prefer spaciousness and animals. I prefer simple symbolism. But it's all there. It's all there, This tells you exactly what you need to know about the Six of Cups, I think. And this image actually reminds me of one that was given to me for my birthday when I was like 18 or 19. A friend of mine gave me an image that represents me that was, I don't know, it's on the wall right next to me right now. So that I didn't even make that connection until just this moment, that it reminds me of that artwork. I didn't even think about that until now. These are two cards that are examples of, I don't think it expresses what I want from either the Seven or the Eight of Cups. I know that this is one of the images that was changed in later editions. I can't remember what the Seven of Cups looks like now. Maybe it's a better representation. But to me, this is like, there's a clear choice. And I don't see there being a clear choice in the Seven of Cups, symbolically. And this one as well, I don't enjoy the broken cups, because the idea is that you're going to come back. You're not leaving forever. I mean, in some cases, maybe you are. But this kind of just pushes your interpretation of it. Like, you don't want to come back to all of these jagged, broken cups. But again, that's, that's the way she sees it. Obviously, it's clear how she sees the Eight of Cups, how Kim Krans sees the Eight of Cups. You can take it or leave it. But anyway, it's just interesting to look back. I'm finding, as a person that very much over collected tarot and oracle decks, when I came out of that process and like let go of a bunch of stuff, and then of course the cycle repeated itself many times because I'm an addict. I don't know if I've ever worded it quite like that. I mean, I've said that I have an addiction. I don't usually say I'm an addict, but lately there have been some indicators that make me feel like I would own that word a little bit more. But it's just, that's the first time I've said it out loud. That feels weird. Hello, my name is Mixtress. I am an addict. But anyway, there was a process that I went through. I just never noticed these little marks down here. Never noticed them, but I think they're part of the card. It's just funny to look back because for the most part, probably about 75% of my tarot and oracle decks that I have kept, that have survived all of the cullings, are the ones that I got in like the first 6 months that I was buying tarot and oracle decks. So I knew either one of two things could be happening, or some combination of both. Either I knew exactly what I wanted from the beginning and I should have stopped after a few months, or just the simple nature of they happen to be the first ones. Those just were the ones that stuck with me. So I'm already transitioning into sort of the babbling portion of what I want to talk about in this video, philosophically. So let me see if there's anything else I can say about this deck in particular. For the most part, it is one of my only decks that I would really ascribe a definitive personality to. You know, it's all these things that I've already said. It's simple symbolic language, expressive, emotional line work. It's fire. Like, this deck wants to give you wands. And that was most, like, when I was the first year or two that I was using tarot, I was getting wands all the time, just in general. So it was the right time for me to connect to this particular tarot deck. The other thing is, it needs, in my experience, it needs to be outside. You know, it wants to be with me next to a bonfire. It wants to be in my hands when I'm sitting on my porch. It is not, for me, meant to be on a shelf. It is meant to be used. And I think if I ever stopped, I think I have stopped using this deck for short periods of time, but I think in general, if I stopped using it for a few months, it would feel like it was neglected, and I would need to do something to reconnect to it. Does that mean that I think it's demanding? I don't see it as demanding because I'm willing to do it. Like, this is usually 9 times out of 10, this is the deck that I sit down with every Sunday and pick my cards for the week. So it gets the attention from me that it wants, because most of the time it gets used at least once a week. So maybe it is demanding, but I'm okay with that, because weirdly, like, I wouldn't say that, like, flipping through this and looking at the artwork, I'm not saying that it's not good. Let's preface that. I'm not trying to say that it's not good, because it is good. But I wouldn't, it's not like I'm looking at this and I love every single image, but I know it. So that's a good transition. I know this tarot deck. And that having... Did I finish that sentence? I think this is my most used tarot deck. The Rider-Waite-Smith that I keep hanging on my wall in this room, that I use every week for my patrons, and I use for lots of other readings that I do for others especially, is right up there. Halloween Tarot is right up there because it's always in my purse. So if I want to pull a card anywhere I am, that's the deck that I'm reaching for. But it's right up there. Those are the 3 most used. And I think that it is not because I do feel that this is a special tarot deck. I do think it's special. However, I don't think that's the primary reason why I use it so much. I think it's a relationship. It feels like a relationship. The more I use it, the more I feel like I know it. The more I feel like it communicates it communicates even more clearly to me. It is at the point, just like a lot of us might feel about the Rider-Waite-Smith. It's like we know those images by heart so well that all we have to do is glance. We pull a few cards, make a little spread, glance, and we know what the message is. We can synthesize it quickly because of the time spent with that imagery. And that is how it's kind of like Anna Astrolady Tarot, her concept of main decks and mood decks. This has become a main deck for me because it takes no time to glance at the images and know exactly what they are because I know them well. And an aspect of it for me, I have learned, is that I prefer simple symbolism as well. Like, I don't want there to be a lot of shit going on in a card because unless, I mean, there are exceptions. Telesma Tarot is one of my very favorites, but I'm not pulling multiple cards with that deck. I'm pulling one at a time and setting it out, sometimes for extended periods of time. Sometimes I'll have like a card from Telesma sitting out on my altar for months to take in, to drink in all of that imagery. But I do not want, like, I almost want to say that's the only deck that I want to be that fucking busy. I'm even, you guys, it's been in and out of the giveaway box. I'm probably going to let go of Darkwood Tarot. And it's for the same reason that I let go of Shadowscapes, which is the imagery is beautiful. If I were in an art gallery looking at either Shadowscapes or Darkwood Tarot, like big canvas-sized images in an art gallery, just as like a tarot showcase from one person's artwork, one person's work, I would be so into it. But it doesn't work for me as cards because it's too detailed. And just my own personal preference, I don't want that. So kind of the point that I'm circling around, that I'm trying to make, that I think is a point that I've made before, so it's like nothing new, but it is something that I'm thinking even more about lately now that I'm doing an online no-buy. I've only bought one deck this year so far. And something that I'm finding, like across the board, not just with tarot and oracle decks, but with all of my possessions, one of the things that I'm finding is that what I have is not only fine and good enough, but I actually like it better than anything new. I prefer things that I am familiar with, and I prefer simplicity in general. So I'm always looking now on how I can simplify my life, my spiritual practices, because I'm finding that I am usually, like, it's a big correlation. Like, the less stuff I have, the less stimulus I have. I mean, to a point, like, you know, I really don't want to be sitting on the floor in a room with no possessions in it, you know? I'm not going that far. But so far, I keep taking away in my life. Like, I'm using up things and not, like, consumables. I'm using them up and I'm not necessarily replacing them. Other things, I am letting them go and giving myself a minute before I replace them. And sometimes, oftentimes, I'm choosing not to replace those things at all. Things that I would have in the past thought of as things that you would replace. I'm just finding so much contentment in less. And I'm getting to know, like, particularly using the example of tarot and oracle decks, this year I have gotten to know my tarot and oracle decks better than I have in any of the previous years. And I've been accumulating tarot and oracle decks since 2019. And I'm just now feeling like I get them, you know? Because for me, it's more about the time spent and the relationship created with the tools that I have. It's more about that than the tool itself. Like, the tool itself's got to meet me somewhere, you know? It can't be terrible. It can't be useless, in my opinion. Obviously, that's all opinion. So it's got to bring something to the table. But once it does, I've got to then give back to it with my time. And I have done that with this tarot deck, and it is rewarding me because I have such a fondness for it. And again, it's because of the time spent. Like, yes, I think it is a tarot deck that was created with, I mean, love. I don't know if love is the right word, but that's the cliche that expresses what I'm trying to say, right? It was created with love. It was created with intent. It was created with a fire burning inside the artist that she needed to convey. And she did a great job. I mean, choosing specific trees for the Empress and the Emperor, and the night and the moon for the Empress and the sun for the Emperor. Like, yes. You know, I feel like she knows about nature, and she used that to create a tarot deck. So yeah, it's good. It is good. Are there images that I dislike? Yes. Are there images that I thought she rushed through? Yes. To be fair, maybe not fair, maybe fair, I don't know. I do think there are many images in this deck. I think her creation process, again, my unverified personal gnosis, I think her creation process is overall quick and fiery. But she has good instincts. I mean, I love... You're not getting this with AI, guys. Here's another one that, like, this is the Wheel of Fortune in my head. This is the one that all others, not that they have to stack against, but just like when I see the Wheel of Fortune, this is the symbolism that my brain comes back to. I don't necessarily imagine this card, but this is the symbolism to me, because we've got, it's a cycle. We built all of these threads, and we will have to unravel them. You've got, you know, day and night. It's a cycle. I'm also just slow. Like, I don't think I've ever thought about the fact that we have a moon up here and a sun down here, which is an obvious piece of symbolism in this card. But I have always just looked at the owl and the threads and the twigs, and that told me what I needed to know. I've had this deck for 5.5 years, and I'm sure I've noticed that there's a moon and noticed that there was a sun, but I just never put that together. So that's maybe unique to me, that I'm just really fucking slow. And that's why I can't have that many tarot and oracle decks, because I'm just not going to understand basic shit that other people maybe get at a glance. My grandpa is a Leo, and I swear this is him. Like, these eyes are my grandpa's eyes. So this is more like a wild unknown appreciation post more than anything. But again, it's my relationship, you know? And I have found that that is true with almost everything in my life. Like, whatever fucking moisturizer I'm using on my face, it's totally fine. In fact, it's great. Because it's here and I'm using it. You know, like, I find that my, like, concept surrounding what I need in my life is changing a lot. I don't need very much, and I don't need perfection in any way. This is my least favorite card in the entire deck. So come on. 1 star? That's what you're giving? Come on. I do sort of like, okay, so this is an assumption. I don't actually know because I wasn't here for it. But didn't this deck start? Let me know in the comments if you've been paying attention to the tarot and oracle publishing world for a really long time, and you remember when this one came out 12 years ago. Didn't this one kind of start the whole indie tarot shit that has now just gone off the rails? But again, you can't blame Nirvana for grunge. You can't blame Kim Kranz for indie tarot decks. You know, she inspired people. Okay. Is there anything else that I want to say? I mean, I'm probably, if I continue trying to explain this concept of I love what I have, I might just be repeating myself and still not using the adequate words. I'm finding that I'm actually maybe better. Maybe I'm not better. Some of the things that some of the topics that I try to discuss with you guys, I am finding that I might be better at expressing those concepts in art than I am with words. I'm still gonna try to explain these things with words, but I made like a collage the other day that to me says a lot of the things that I've been trying to say to you guys for years in one image. It says what I want to say. It requires people to understand symbolism the way that I understand it. But so does using words, right? So does using language. Anyway, I think this is an example of loving the one you're with. I picked it out for myself before I was paying attention to tarot YouTube, and it was the right choice for me at the time. And the relationship that I've made with it over the last 5.5 years has only reinforced that. And, you know, for those of y'all that worry about doing things like taking tarot decks with you outside, like, I have had this since April 2019. You might be able to tell that the edges are a little yellowed, more so on the top than on the side. But they're not bowed, they're not stained. I have chased these cards through my yard many times. When it's windy, even if none of the cards have blown away, sometimes I will count. You can kind of tell the yellowed edges better, like this. But that's it. You know, I use this deck a lot. And it's fine. You know? Like, tarot decks can withstand use, guys. I mean, yeah, there are some exceptions. There are some cardstocks that just, like, crumble. But, you know, even the mass market that you can get now, like, the cardstock is very good. I remember it being very good. It's like slightly different than this, but just as durable. Little easier to shuffle than this is, but this isn't terrible. Like, it has gotten more flexible with time and easier to shuffle. But again, how cool is that it doesn't even have a bend? I don't know. I don't really care about that shit, but it's kind of nice. Anyway, there are a few kind of chipped corners that I have noticed, but I can't even find them right now. I mean, yeah, you can kind of see if you look closely at the corners, like some of them are a little bent up. But you know what? I am pretty rough as a shuffler, and especially because I tend to use this deck outside more times than not. So it's been in the elements. It has definitely, like, I'll set it down on my, like, table that I have on my porch which sometimes is covered in pollen. And, you know, so it's gotten grime on it many times. It has, again, it's gotten moisture on it from beverages or whatever. Dew. It loves it. It loves all of it. I'm just saying, you can take your decks outside if you want. If you want, you can. I would suggest that if it has been a windy day, even if you haven't noticed anything flying off, before you go inside, count the cards. Make sure they're all there. I did have a King of Wands once, not from this deck, but from a different deck, go on a little walkabout. It showed back up again like a week later. I didn't even realize it was gone. And at that point, it was water damaged. But, like, I've always taken my decks outside, and, like, it's fine. It's fine, guys. Anyway, I'm gonna stop. Love the one you're with. You probably have this. Even if you don't have Wild Unknown, you probably have a deck like this that you got in the beginning that spoke to you, that you continued using all of this time. And how rewarding is that? I don't know, for me that's what it's about. It's about that relationship. And you can only get that relationship if you give your decks time. If you work with them. That's what I mean by time. Like, you're paying attention to them repeatedly. That's the only way you get that feeling. And for me, that was a feeling that I was seeking from the beginning. I wanted a deck. Now, that's not how it shook out. I now have about 15 of each, Tarot and Oracle. So, you know, I didn't stop at 1. I didn't even stop at 2 or 3 or 5. But I would like to get to a point where almost all of my decks have this relationship. And this relationship only comes from time. I mean, it also needs to fit the prerequisites of what you find important about a tarot deck. like what kind of imagery you relate to, and, you know, whatever other aspects of it are important to you. But yeah, anyway, time.